Hey YouTube, new season, new meta, sort of. There is a lot of changes this year. I think a lot of good changes. So we will see a pretty new top 20 here, but there are definitely some staples from the previous season that will still be strong that you're still going to see a ton of. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over this new top 20 list. We're going to go over 9 teams, all with new Pokemon and new moves and why they are so strong. And let's get into it. So this is the new top 20 list. And the first thing that I'm going to go on this list is Ghost, because Ghost got the biggest buff this season. Some of these Ghosts got cover moves. Some of them got buff moves. Hex got buffed. So Ghosts are definitely going to be on the rise. As you can see, the Ghosts on this list are Sableye, Corsola, Dusclops, Dusknoir, and Jellicent. As I do a quick check, yes. So decent amount of Ghosts in the top 20. Sableye is a very, very unique one. Why is it up so high? There's like 4 reasons. So one is there are now a lot more Ghost and Psychic in the meta, and you are a dark Ghost, so you will destroy the Ghost and you will destroy the Psychic, right? So you could see all the Ghosts on this list. You can see the Grumpig and Claydol are Psychic. So more Psychic, more Ghosts. Sableye already gets a buff there. 2. Foul Play and Dazzling Gleam. Dazzling Gleam for sure is a direct buff. I think Foul Play may be a slight nerf. However, what this allows you to do with this decrease in energy is spam these Foul Plays at 10. Now, this is going to be an interesting one that I'm going to have to test out, because before, the reason that the Shadow was better was because the non-Shadow Sableye, it would take 2 Shadow Claw Foul Play combos to take out. You'd have to go Shadow Claw, Foul Play, Shadow Claw, Foul Play to take out Pokemon. And before this Foul Play nerf, you would be able to just go Shadow Claw, Foul Play, and then Shadow Claw to take out, because those Shadow Claws did so much damage as a Shadow. Now Foul Play's sort of nerfed. It's nerfed in the damage, but it's also quicker to get to. So now you're only getting to it in 10 turns as opposed to, I think it was like 14 and 12. So you're going to be spamming a lot quicker. You still have that stab Shadow Claw. And again, you have that just meta that is going to be a lot of Psychic and Ghost. So I think just being able to spam Foul Plays in the Shadow Claw already gives you great answers. And if you're going to have a lot of Ghosts, you're going to have a lot of Darks. So Mandibuzz at number 1, Malamar at number 4. So now you got a buffed Dazzling Gleam on top of it. So being able to do that, I didn't even take into consideration that you also resist poison as a Ghost. So lots of good going for it. This should be a top meta. Corsola is on this list at 6. It is actually down because Nightshade got nerfed. Nightshade basically was a direct attack on Corsola to move it down a bit. It's still very strong, still very bulky, coverage, everything. That's still pretty good with it. Dusclops and Dusknoir, I will put them together, even though they do kind of play different roles. Dusclops, as someone put it in my video yesterday, is basically Stunfisk. You have a fast charging move. Hex got buffed with the, I think, energy and damage. So Hex got buffed, which means you were spamming. As you can see, only 12 to an Ice Punch and only 9 to a Shadow Punch. And on the 4th time around, it's only 6 to a Shadow Punch. So this thing is going to spam, and it is extremely, extremely bulky. Now, Ice Punch and Shadow Punch don't hit hard. So I always talk about Unova Stunfisk being just like a freaking noodle that doesn't hit hard. Dusclops is going to see him. It's not going to hit hard, but these moves are just going to come so often, and you have so much bulk to live. That's why it's on this list. Dusknoir as the Shadow plays a slightly different role, because instead of Hex fast charging spammy, you got Dusknoir who hits harder because it's already the evolved form. You got the Shadow on top of it, so it hits even harder, and you have Astonish, which is a harder hitting move, and Dynamic Punch, which got buffed, that you're going to get to at a decent pace and hit hard. So Dusknoir will play. So I only have a Dusclops team. I think you can substitute the two for each other, but just know that they play very, very different roles. Dusclops will allow you to take a lot of damage and spam a lot. Dusknoir, less damage, but way harder hitting on the output. And Jellicent, also with the Hex buff, I think Jellicent essentially becomes what Drifblim was to a lot of people last season. Again, they play different roles because Drifblim is harder hitting, Astonish hits harder, but this Hex is going to spam. So now it's only 12 to a Surf and 15 to a Shadow Ball with a little more damage. So Jellicent should play a pretty nice role, similar to what I think Drifblim played last season. So those are your ghosts. Because there's going to be more ghosts, there's going to be more darks. The two on this list, so again, Sableye is a dark too, so that could technically be up there. That's why it's so high. But Malamar, Mandibuzz, both were super meta last season. Mandibuzz did not see any buffs, but it's just with more ghosts and more Psywave users and more psychic Pokemon, it just is going to be dominant. Plus, there should be some grass to take out all the waters on this list, because water is just a top meta too. Some waters got buffed like Lapras, so you should see more grass, which means Mandibuzz does well there. So Mandibuzz, top Pokemon, not surprising. Malamar gets a buff because Foul Play. The thing with Malamar was Superpower was always the better move. So you always wanted to throw Superpower over Foul Play, but Superpower obviously lowers your attack and defense. So a lot of times you had to go over to like 12 turns worth of move, throw the Foul Play, and then the Superpower after. Because Foul Play got the lower energy, lower damage combo, and now it is only 10 to Foul Play. So you essentially have your bait move at 10 now. So you still want to throw Superpower pretty much in any neutral situation, because Superpower will do more damage. But if you need to like bait first, being able to bait with a 10 turn Foul Play as opposed to a 12 turn makes it much, much better. So Malamar up on the list there. I mentioned Psychic a couple times. Grumpig and Claydol. Now Psychic is going to be a weird one because it is weak to Ghost and weak to Dark, and there's a lot of that on this top 20 list. So right off the bat, there's already an issue with what I think Psychic could be. Both sim very well, and both have a lot going for it. Grumpig gets Stab Psywave, which is going to be one of the best fast moves in the game to start with. With Stab Psywave, this thing is going to chip like crazy. It also has Shadow Ball, which is a great move coming at 14, and Dynamic Punch, which got buffed for it's like a 2 damage per energy move coming at 12. So pretty hard hitting with the hard hitting fast move. It's got like a nice stab product, so it's got some okay bulk. So it should be a definitely strong Pokemon to use. Claydol is the same thing. It's a Psychic, but it's also ground. And the problem with this Pokemon, it sims very well. It's got bulk, Mud Slaps, smacks. It's ground, so it gets the same type of attack bonus on it. Rock Tomb got buffed, lowering the opponent's attack and hitting pretty hard. And Scorching Sands is a good charge move. So it's got a ton going for it in terms of its stack product and its moveset. Its typing is ugly because its typing is Psychic and Ground, which means you're weak to 5 basically meta typings. Dark, Ghost, Grass, Ice, and Water. And there may even be a 6th that I'm forgetting. But those are a lot of weaknesses of the main meta. So I do think that it's going to have play. But again, if you're going to get like combos of Dark and Ghost and Water everywhere, you're essentially going to be weak to so many Pokemon. So you got to take that into consideration. I'm going to go over the Pokemon that have not changed that are still on this list, because there's the obvious ones. Clodsire, bulky, spammy, tons of coverage. So Clodsire 2 and 10. You have Diggersby at 11, same thing. Bulky, spammy, good coverage overall. A wall to the poisons to a certain extent. So that's why it's up there. More Pecco. There's more Darks, more Ghosts, which you will beat with the Electric. There's Flyers and Mandibuzz. There's Water and Lapras and Feraligatr. So more Pecco should be on the rise for sure. It was already a really, really strong Pokemon last season, and it's going to be even better this season. Shadow Feraligatr doing Shadow Feraligatr, Shadow Claw, Hydro Cannon things. Spammy, good safe swap, lots of coverage. Corviknight. Corviknight got in because of its crazy resistances. And one of the resistances you get is to Psychic. So resisting all these Psywave Pokemon is a good starter. You're half flying, so you resist the ground. So a lot of just like covering you resist poison. Like there's so many things that it resists, which is why it's so high. And Gastrodon and Pangoro. Gastrodon just your Mud Slap user. Earth Power is a great move. Body Slam not so much, but Gastrodon just being able to slap in neutral situations. And Pangoro, I think Pangoro is overrated. Honestly, I know why it's getting. I didn't consider it in my dark, but it's half dark, and that is why it's so high. That's why it's probably recommending it over Annihilape or Primeape. I think Annihilape and Primeape are still going to be two very, very strong Pokemon this meta. But if you're seeing a lot more Ghosts, having a dark fighter to take care of the Darks and the Ghosts makes sense. So Pangoro as the main fighter could make a lot of sense, especially with its spam of Night Slash and close combat. And then a couple more new Pokemon on this list. Or is there only one more? Oh, no, there's two more. Lapras and Togetic. So Lapras, again, Psywave, I mentioned, one of the best fast moves in the game. Sparkling Aria and Ice Beam. So it is a very, very, very bulky Pokemon with one of the best fast moves in the game. And Sparkling Aria and Ice Beam are pretty strong in their damage, respectively. It's going to play, I think, similar to how, I mean, it's not going to be the exact same, but think of how you use Feraligatr. It's not the best comparison, but it's not a bad comparison. So, you know, both can be safe swaps. Both put out a lot of damage with their fast move, Shadow Claw or Psywave. Obviously, the Hydros hit harder, but Sparkling Aria is a good move. And then Lapras gets the additional bulk on top so it can live move, and then you have Ice Beam coverage. So it kind of plays a somewhat similar role, but not the exact same. And Togetic gets a double buff with Psyshock and Dazzling Gleam, both buffed. It already had a great Fairy flying typing, which can deal with a lot, right? Fairy with all the darks, flying with the grass Pokemon and the fighters. So you got a lot of the meta coverage there. And then you also have Psyshock, which is only 10 to get to now and buffed, and Dazzling Gleam, which is only 14 to get to now and buffed. You're pretty much going, unless Dazzling Gleam is resisted, you're pretty much going straight Dazzling Gleam. It is a very, very nice stab move for Togetic. So that is the new meta. Again, some staples that we've seen constantly in, you know, Mandibuzz and Malamar and Clodsire, but definitely a lot of new Pokemon on this list. So let's start building with these new Pokemon, some on this list and some in the lower rankings like Blastoise and stuff. So I started with, you know, Lapras, number 1 Pokemon for new Pokemon. It's number 3 ranked. As you can see here, for being a number 3 ranked Pokemon, and then you get Superior, who's down at like rank 60 or something, and you look at the matchups against the main meta, Superior is going to kill the main meta compared to Lapras. And again, the reason that is, there's a decent amount of Dark, so Psywave is resisted, so like Malamar resists Psywave, Morpeko is going to resist Psywave, Mandibuzz is going to resist Psywave, even though you beat it, apparently. I guess you have Ice Beam. But there's a ton of bulk, which is why in a lot of these other matchups, you're neutral. Water Pokemon are going to be a little bit of an issue. As you can see, you're going to lose to Jellicent. You're going to... Oh, you actually beat a Azumarill? That's interesting. Because you only have water and ice type charge moves. So everything there is resisted. But like I said, Psywave is going to really put in a lot of work as the fast move. You're going to be weak to electric. You're going to be weak to grass. You're going to be weak to fighting. So I tried to cover most of those with Superior. And then I used Shadow Drapion as the safe swap. So that is how I built out that team there. And Superior and Superior and Lapras are going to have enough bulk that if you want to start double shielding in the mid game to try and flip switch, you can with Drapion. Okay, Grumpig. Grumpig gets Stab Psywave, but it is a Psychic, so you're going to lose to the Darks and still going to have problems with some Ghost. But with Stab Psywave and good coverage charge moves, really putting up a lot of work. But again, as a Psychic, you're weak to Dark and Ghost. And there's going to be a lot of Dark and Ghost, so you got to cover that weakness. So I covered that weakness with Guzzlord. I think Guzzlord is going to be extremely, extremely strong in this meta because you got the Ghost, which you'll beat. You got the Dark, which you'll beat. You got Grass, which you'll resist. You have Electric, which you'll resist. So I can see Guzzlord being on a lot of top teams, as you can see by its run of the top meta here. And then I needed a third. I was like, what are my weaknesses still remaining? I'm like, Guzzlord's double weak to Fairy, so I probably want to cover that, considering Grumpig's one of its moves is a fighting move, so I covered it with a Steel Corviknight there. So safe swap here is a little tricky. You may want to try Grumpig as a safe swap because Corviknight and Guzzlord can be really punished. So again, the only thing that's kind of lacking on that team is a safe swap. So if you want to, what you could do is try and find a different third over Corviknight. Because I think that Guzzlord and Grumpig cover each other's weaknesses pretty well. So if you want to find a different third that you can just play bounce team, you can do that as well. Dusclops, Wiggly, and Primeape. So Dusclops as a ghost is going to have problems. First of all, again, it's super, super spammy, very bulky, but does not hit hard. So I think it could be pretty safe So you could potentially use it as a safe swap, but you're going to have problems with Darks. So I have 2 answers for Darks, Wiggly and Primeape. And you know, Wiggly can deal with... so the problem with the backline is you're pretty weak to poison, because fighting is going to be resistant and so on with the fairy. So poison's going to cause problems for your backline. Dusclops as a ghost will obviously kill most poisons. So you could do you can do it one of 2 ways. You can do you can try Dusclops safe swap, or you can do Primeape as a safe swap, because Primeape does have a decent amount of play because of its spam as safe swap, and lead Dusclops and try and draw out like a poison or something. There. Other things that will cause this team problems, which is why I'm actually not as sold on this team, but other things that will cause this problem is something like a Wigglytuff, because you have a mirror match there, you have Charm doing super effective on Primeape, and then you have the Ghost being resisted. So outside of like normal Pokemon, you have Primeape and Wiggly can deal with, but with Wiggly itself being half normal, it could be a bit of a problem. Claydol. So this is what I'm talking about with Claydol. It could be very, very strong, obviously beating anything that's weak to ground. It's got some bulk, so even your losses aren't that hard, but your losses are against a lot of the main meta. Mandibuzz, you're weak to dark. Lapras, you're weak to water. Cresselia, you're weak to ghost, right? Other ghost Pokemon, dark Pokemon, water Pokemon, yeah, right down the list, right? So you need to cover all those weaknesses. So I covered it with Mandibuzz. Being able to deal with the majority of those. You're also weak to grass, which isn't showing up on this list, but you're also weak to grass. So that's what I did there. And then I used Dunsparce as a safe swap. So yes, Dunsparce has been nerfed this season with Rollout. Someone in the comments said that it's still going to be very good. The thing with Rollout was the damage got nerfed. If the energy got nerfed, all these Rollout users would be useless. But the damage is the one that got nerfed. So it's still getting to charge moves at a quick rate. So again, this is not new. This was what the damage used to be on Rollout, and you will feel the damage nerf. I guarantee you, because I remember using that pre-buff against like a Frostlass, and you can't even like roll it down from the deep red, because Rollout will not do much, but it's still fast charging. So if you have a fast charger that has bulk, I still think it will have some play, which is why a lot of, not a lot, but a few subscribers have in the comments have said that like, yeah, it's still going to have play. So Togetic, and this is one, again, I said I need to run this one. People are swearing by how good it's going to be, but if you look at it's in the one shield against the main meta, it doesn't win a lot. You're going to beat the Darks. You're going to have probably good matchups against most ground, because you resist as a flyer, but you are losing a lot of matchups because, again, Dazzling Gleam's a good move, but you're never going to take out in one Dazzling Gleam. You're going to need multiple moves, and Psyshock is not a great second move. And you have no fast move pressure. You have a fast charger with Fairy Wind. So it could be interesting. You're weak to electric, you're weak to ice, you're weak to a few things here, right? So I put in Sableye and Gastrodon as your covers. You also don't have any charge moves for steals, which is why Gastrodon is the main thing to cover the steel weakness, cover the electric weakness. And then I use Purified Sableye as a safe swap, knowing how just like spammy it is and how much play it should have against all the ghosts in the meta. There's still a few more teams because we got a lot of new Pokemon, and one of them is Galarian Weezing with a buffed Sludge. So this is the Shadow, because Sludge got buffed to a really nice damage per energy, and you now have same type attack bonus on it, and if you add the Shadow bonus on it, those Sludges are going to come really fast and hit really hard, like borderline, not as hard as Hydro Cannon hard, but it's pretty damn hard. So I think it's going to have a lot of play. Again, going to have some problems against the main meta in ground and stuff like that. So I put in 2 Pokemon that I think are going to be somewhat safe for Alligator and Credilli, as you can see by their matchups. Credilli also got the Rock Tomb boost. I think Credilli is a pretty good core breaker, because there is a lot of ground Pokemon, which you hit super effective with the grass. And then there's also your half rock. You have the flyer coverage and fire coverage there in your like Rock Tomb and stuff. Yes, so I think that it is going to be a pretty nice Pokemon. So it's generally a safe team, with a couple, I think, safe Pokemon in the back. Okay, Ferret. I'm not sold on this backline, and I'll tell you why in a second. So I started with Ferret because it is a Pokemon that now has Sucker Punch. So it only has one weakness, and that's fighting. So if you cover your fighting weakness, So there's two things you need to cover. Your fighting weakness, which I covered with both Clodsire and Corsola. So there's your fighter weakness gone. Your second thing that you need to cover is dark, because your fast move is a dark move. So obviously, Clodsire can do fine against the majority of the dark. However, Corsola is not going to be amazing versus most dark because you are also ghost. So if you go against a dark Pokemon, your dark and your ghost are both resisted. Now, as you can see in the wins and losses here, you can potentially just like combo some of these, but it will be an issue. So Fred's going to be an interesting one because, again, it's only weak to fighting. There's not a ton of fighters. There's going to be Primeape and Annihilape as the main ones. Medi's back, but Medi's actually half psychic, so you hit neutral with Sucker Punch. And at the same time, Pangoro, which will be a big problem for the back line. So it's up to you whether you want to run that double black line. You already have enough coverage in Clodsire, so you can run potentially something else there. I am going, nope, that's not right. Did I do Team 8 yet? Sorry, one sec. I did not do Team 8. I skipped over Team 9. That's my bad. Let's hide all you. Okay, Team 8 is Golisopod, Steelix, and Superior. So Golisopod got buffed with Aqua Jet. So now you have a faster charge move, and you have a bug cover / stab move as well. So it's an interesting one. Your moveset's going to be interesting because you're going to have the Shadow Claw for the ghost, you have the X Scissor for the dark, and you have an Aqua Jet for your ground, and you're a bug, so you resist fighting. So it's got a lot going for it. I have found in the past that if you're going to use a Water Shadow Claw user, just use Feraligatr. They do play different roles, and will have different coverages, right? So Golisopod could be an interesting one. It's going to be one of those that I have to test. Weak to electric, so I covered it with Steelix and Superior. It's going to be weak to rock. So again, cover Steelix and Superior for that. And then these like Superior's arc, you can see down the board. Superior's going to be strong, like really strong this season, because you just need to worry about fire and ice, which you can cover with the other two. You're double weak to fire in the back, but you can combo it with the other two. And Superior in just neutral matchups with the Frenzy is going to be insane. So as you can see, that's why it has so many wins. And Thunderfang Steelix, again, it seems pretty good. There are a couple fighters and grounds. Fighters and grounds will kill you, but with some waters and Lapras now on in the main meta, I think you're going to have some play with Steelix. And the last one is Blastoise, and this is one we kind of need to talk about too. So let's just do a team, and I'll talk about Blastoise versus Feraligatr because other people make fair comments on my video yesterday. So Blastoise gets Rollout. Rollout is nerfed, but again, the energy is not nerfed. So you actually do get to the charge moves, Hydro and Ice Beam or Skull Bash in a pretty fast manner. So as you see, the other board is pretty safe. Obviously, you're going to have problems with Electric and Grass. So I covered Electric and Grass. Those main weaknesses with Jumpluff and Malamar. So that's the team. Blastoise versus Feraligatr. In my assumption, I said, you're getting to the moves. Actually, I think it said you're getting to the moves quicker on Feraligatr, which is true for the first two, but maybe not the third. Because it takes 12 for the first Hydro on Blastoise and only 9 and 9 on the second and third. So all things equal, you're still getting to the Hydro quicker on Feraligatr. And the damage on Shadow Claw is going to be way more than the damage on Rollout. So I said, with all those things being equal, Shadow Claw damage and getting to the Hydros faster, with the Shadow damage on Feraligatr, I would just say Feraligatr is just way better. And it's ranked higher for a reason. Others in the chat basically argued that yes, although Shadow Claw is better than the Rollout, the pacing is not significantly different. You'll get to the Hydro first on the first one and on the second one, but only by 1, and then the third one you already even out. So the pacing of the moves is not bad, it's pretty much identical, But then Blastoise is going to have an insane amount of bulk compared to Feraligatr. So where Feraligatr, you're kind of worried about taking a move. You don't need to be worried about taking a move. I mean, unless it's like an aura wheel. But for the most part, you don't need to worry about taking a move on Blastoise. So Blastoise could have a lot more play than I gave it credit for initially. So we will see. I will test it. There's going to be a lot of Beyond the Hypes this week. So for those of you who are new to the channel, one, welcome. Hit the subscribe button. Because we take a very analytical approach to this channel. And I do a video called Beyond the Hype. So what's going to happen now, if you are subscribed to a bunch of other content creators, you are going to see spam, talk about Spam City. You're going to see Spam City with videos from content creators. I expect some of these content creators to put at least 3 to 4 videos out per day because everyone wants to be the first to showcase these new Pokemon. I'm still going at a pretty crazy rate at 2 a day, considering I have a full-time job and 2 young kids. But I won't be able to spam as fast. Like some content creators will cover like 8 Pokemon before I can cover 4. So what I did is I created a series called Beyond the Hype. Because when a lot of times they're just kind of getting out with clickbait titles, be like, you have to check out this new Pokemon. You don't need to check out all the new Pokemon. Some Pokemon are not going to be good, right? And I said this in my video yesterday. The amount of content creators that put out Starmie is going to be meta. This thing is broken. You need to use it. And then I did a Beyond the Hype saying this thing is actually garbage. Don't waste your time for everyone to never use Starmie because it's garbage. So I find I provide the best value with you don't go around using new Pokemon blindly based on other content creators hyping it up. Subscribe to the channel. Watch my videos of the Beyond the Hype. And that'll give you the true pros and cons of all these Pokemon and their strengths and weaknesses and stuff like that. So I actually did there's some Pokemon that you like 100% will be worth the hype. Lapras, Grumpig, like those Pokemon, you can just invest now. They're going to be strong. But like the Togetic, the Claydol, the Blastoise, these are Pokemon that I'm going to test out this week and give you a true analysis of like, okay, this is his strength, this is his weaknesses, this is where you're gonna like it, this is where you're not gonna like it, and stuff like that. So if you want to not invest hundreds and thousands of dust in all these new Pokemon, just wait for the videos this week. Anyways, that is it. There is a new league. There's I think it's Willpower this afternoon coming up. Let me just check. We'll see what the league is. Pretty sure it's Willpower, so we'll do top teams for that. Yeah, Willpower. Not a new league, so I can just copy some of the old teams. Yeah, so if you want to check that out. And we'll have to actually look at the rankings to see if those have changed. But that is coming this afternoon. So that is it. Good luck with the new season. Remember your star piece. And I will see you guys in the next one.